Thank you. Um, Maybe we'll start with a quick round of introductions from each of you. A minute talk about what you and your company do, and also just emphasize on who your customers are, so that the perspective of this panel discussion becomes a bit more contextual.
Just to take further from the last panel, so I represent Keynes Group, which is Keynes Technology, and we are setting up a Keynes Space Tech Center. So, gentleman asked the question, what should his son do? Come join us. So, but then having said that, we are a large, dominant electronic manufacturing services company for the last 38 years. 450 million revenue valued at 5 billion. We are now, from a backward integration standpoint, setting up a semiconductor manufacturing and a bareboard PCB, thereby becoming the only one-stop solution in India as far as EMS, OSAT, and bareboard PCB.
Hey guys, this is Rahul. I'm one of the founders at Zetwork. We're a fairly diversified company with operations spread across Europe, US, and India. Considering it's all about electronics today, in electronics, we're a pure play EMS player trying to figure out spaces where a new age company can exist. We are probably the only one with less than 3-4 years of history, but doing fine and trying to grow in that space, which is growing faster than any other space in the country.
I'm from Mati Motors, co-founder CEO. We make robots, autonomous robots for factories, material movement in factories. Our customers are one of the largest factories of the world, right? I mean, in typically automotive, FMCG, electronics, also, right? So I think here probably my point of view is from a perspective of we are probably more a consumer of electronics as a maker of robots, right? And that's what we do. Our robots run across US, Mexico, India, Southeast Asia.
Fantastic. So I was looking up into the report, and you'll get insights into this when it's launched. The electronics and electrical sector in India is about $200 billion. Agreed that a lot of it is assembly, but the value add component has been increasing over a period of time. There has been some sort of an inflection that has happened in the last 2 to 3 years, looks like, and in the next decade or so, we're going to see this almost triple in size. So, from each of your vantage points, based on the journey that you've gone through, what are some of those uptakes, changes that you've observed that is making this potentially happen for the country?
Sure. So, it was a little bit of a learning yesterday when we were talking. Let's separate out electrical versus electronics, honestly speaking, right? Further that, from an electrical standpoint, we are looking at the big transformers, the distribution systems, and likes of those. And when we talk about electronics, I'm primarily talking of the electronic system design and manufacturing. That could encompass whole lot of electronic components and semiconductors and stuff. Now, to answer to what is happening in this market in India, at least in the last 5-6 years, we have, I wouldn't say woken up, because we've been always trying to become a self-reliant as far as the semiconductor is concerned, be semiconductor manufacturing or electronics manufacturing. In the last 20-25 years, at least the EMS has taken a shape. From a manufacturing standpoint, we are now more or less equal to the Foxcons and to the Flex and to the Jabil with the Tata Electronics manufacturing and all that. Semiconductor is taking a shape now. There is a $500 billion we that we are all going after. And that encompasses the manufacturing and the wafer fab, and thereby we moving to be a solid design center to move to do wafer fab manufacturing and the assembly and manufacturing. So from our standpoint, at least in the semiconductor, we feel that the right time, and the next 5 to 6 years is where we are going to uptick this and take it to the next level.
So, in the last 4-5 years, what has changed is regulation. Regulation has driven a large part of EMS growth in the country. That is in terms of increasing the duty for bringing in CBUs to even banning import of products to the country. Television is banned. You can almost not import laptops anymore. You have to bring them in CKD or SKD format. Now, that drove the way for a lot of innovation in terms of assembly operations. That led to the growth of EMS. Other than that, government again has been responsible for driving growth in sectors such as smart meters, inverters. Wherever government procurement is there, government is pushing for a Make in India kind of wave, and that's enabling the growth of EMS sector in the country. Other than that, there is the regulation that happens in US with the tariffs coming in. The transformer sector is seeing a lot of boom, which is crazy. Then because of the regulation, that might impact China. Apple is doing it out here. So large part of the growth in the electronics and electrical sector is not new demand. It is existing demand which was getting, taken care by someone else moving to India. And that's what is probably gonna develop the capabilities. And with that capability, naturally new demand would come to us as well.
I would say, I mean, one thing we do very well now in India is, I mean, all kinds of PCBs we can do. Earlier, people would ask, right, where do your boards come from, etc. I mean, it's not such a. I mean, we make robots, but we make most of our own boards ourselves, right? For example, right. So that's how you get more value addition. Otherwise, typically people would get all these things from China because it's manufactured at scale. But in electronics, you can manufacture even in small volume at very cost-effective prices in India, right? So all our boards are done in India. We don't have to go to Taiwan or China to make them, right? So I think India has a very good ecosystem which has come of EMS providers, service providers. We always had the design talent. Right, so that was there, but I think there's enough manufacturing. You can do 7, 8, 10 layer boards very easily here. I think we still probably flex PCBs, etc., which are the new things are still less. Also, very hard ruggedized or very highly, regulated environments, right? I mean, those are places where we used to still catch up. Those are higher margin. I think we can capture more value if we get into, but I think it's a matter of time. Electrical, because we didn't cover, I think I can, because I'm a big believer in multidisciplinary, so we do so many of the things. Most people don't know, right? I mean, someone like something as simple as wire harnesses in electrical, right? More than $1 billion of wire harnesses are done by Motherson, right? For example, in India, right? So people don't know. I mean, these are such large businesses, and we are very good global leaders in some of those businesses in India, and they're not easy to do. I mean, if you ask anybody, I mean, the first thing which goes wrong in most of the systems, whether it's aerospace or other places, are good wire harnesses. So those are difficult to do at scale, and we are good at that. Other things, I think the EV sector is driving a lot of the electrical work. So batteries, other electrical components. I think the EV sector has been pretty good in driving volumes there.
Now, if you break this up into sort of three sub areas, right? Strategic components that are sort of core to the country, then India specific use cases that are sort of emerging, and then the global supply that India is starting to serve. Maybe your perspectives as you see relevant on each of these, and how you see that shaping up over the next 5 to 7 years. Maybe start with you, Raghu.
So, that's a fair point, and that's a very valid point as well. So we looked at this market in the last 3 to 4 years before we embarked on the OSAT journey. We looked at our EMS, what kind of a consumption that we are doing, being closer to the customer. You pretty much know what kind of a model it is coming and stuff. So we saw that power is a big play in India. Be it EV, be it solar, be it railway, be it energy. And that as a play, if you go from a power MOSFET, which is as a small component that goes to the BLDC fans that we all see now, or it could be the power MOSFETs that go to the industrial aircon, or the MOSFETs and the bigger IGBTs and the bigger semiconductor that goes to the space. Right? So we believe that that domain is going to shoot a lot. With if you look at the kind of investments we in India is doing on railways, a lot of new trains getting added, a lot of technology coming into the train, which is the anti-collision devices that are coming. We believe that railway will take most of the consumption there, and then followed by our industrial fans and then the home fans and all that. So we see power as a big play for India.
And Rahul, you guys deal with both domestic as well as international demand, right? So maybe from your perspective, how do you see these opportunity sets?
So on the component side, Raghu sir already talked about it. On the product side, what we believe is driven by industrial demand. Consumer demand does not drive innovation in the country because it's aesthetic driven, it's also cost driven. Whereas industrial demand, which is smart meters, inverters, anything which goes into government procurement, there India is driving innovation on the product side as well. A lot of new product companies have come in. Another reason for that is the life cycle of the product is longer. It is more than 1 year, 2 years, and you can innovate on the same product. And so more and more companies are coming out here versus companies who are doing innovation only on the consumer side. That's what's driving the foray into product and innovation on the domestic side. On the international side, it's even today on the consumer side is driven by a alternative to changing the origin of the make of the product from China to India. And that's what people are looking at. And in some cases, there is design innovation that's happening, but at a very small scale. The only good thing is that US or Europe as a market is very big. You can be an irrelevant player at $20 million in US, but it's still relevant in India. So that makes the opportunity really exciting in the US and the European market. They're also looking at someone who can control the design outside of China. And again, the success that we see with our customers has largely been on the industrial side rather than on the consumer side.
So, I mean, I'm obviously from industrial automation, and I agree with Rahul. I think industrial automation world over, right, is a big, big focus. I think all the factories in the world are changing with robotics and automation as the key driver. Younger generation just doesn't want to work in factories. They all have to get automated. So there's huge, huge potential, and very surprisingly, even in India, we see the same trend, right? So I think this is something which we were surprised as. I mean, we initially used to think that we're making robots and we'll just maybe pilot in India and only sell outside of India, but that's not true. The I would say the younger generations aspirations are very similar all over the world. Nobody wants to work in factories anymore, irrespective of income levels. It's a very surprising result, to be honest, right? I think that is something which we are seeing. So whole lot of industrial automation in terms of, I think, opportunity which we are missing in India, I think is a little bit more to go to combine the electronics with the packaging and go towards sensing, automation, sensors, right? I think that is a place where you can capture a lot more value rather than only doing components, which are all frankly lower margin business.
That's a good segue into, if you think about strategic components or subsystems, right? In this category, where do you think we are lacking today? Because still there's a lot of import dependence if you think about electronics and electricals. So what are some of the opportunities, as entrepreneurs sitting in the audience, where you think India can still do a lot better and reduce our import dependence over the next 5 to 7 years?
At least from I fall back on semiconductor. There are a lot of designs that are happening. The designs are happening is more towards the captive design centers to all the multinational, right? Almost 30% of the chip designers exist in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Noida, and stuff. 20% of the chip design, 20% of the chip is designed out of here, right? So which means that we are second to none as far as the semiconductor design is concerned. Still, if you look at there are far and few product startups that are coming in the chip design. There are a lot of efforts that are being made in the incubation centers, the design linked initiative by Ministry of Electronics. I don't think it has taken off to that level. Unless we have more of this product design happening in India, then only the wafer starts and the OSAT manufacturing can increase. Otherwise, we'll still be ending up doing services to the big multinational. I believe the government can put in a little bit more effort. Why 10, 15, 20? Why not 100, 200 startups? And there are best minds available who are working out there in all the multinationals. So we believe that looking at that area a little bit more objectively and see how could we bring in more semiconductor products and make this as a product nation and stuff, which is where we are lacking. I believe once that comes, the manufacturing increases, the wafer fab increases and stuff like that.
Just adding on to what Raghu sir said, it makes complete sense that we can't really be localizing components if we don't own the design. And product innovation in consumer doesn't happen in India. In the spaces where it's happening in the industrial spaces, the foray into components is happening. It's not as fast as you would want because there are existing supply chains that have been there for donkey years. They are stable, they are cost effective, they have learned over last 25 30 years. So we're not innovating on the component itself. What we're innovating is on the design. So the component guys have reached a scale in Japan, in China, which allows them to be cost competitive even at regulations which are making them to be expensive, but they aren't. A classic example is PCB, where today PCB, even if India starts making it, we probably will not be competitive with all the PCBs. Maybe mobile PC will be still tough to compete. Now it will happen over a period of time, and it's not necessary that we have to go in that direction. It can be a place where we end up just being product innovators. We own and control the design of the product. The manufacturing can happen elsewhere, but a large part of value creation, which is the product innovation, will happen out here. The government is pushing for it, and as the ecosystem through government sponsored products like smart meters and likes of them increases, folks from those companies will come out and start doing different things, and that's how probably the ecosystem will evolve.
I would say, I mean, especially if new founders are thinking about it, I mean, I don't think the government's priorities are always the founders' priorities, frankly, right? I think the government wants to substitute existing supply chain, whereas existing founders don't want to reinvent the past. That's always a bad idea, right? The new founders want to invent what's not been done today. And I think that's the right way to think for founders, right? I mean, if you just try to play catch up with folks who have been doing it for 10 years, what's the point, right? I mean, you want to do new things and you want to build the next 10 years. So I think really I am a big believer that a lot of innovation happens when you can do multidisciplinary engineering, and there's a lot of potential in doing packaging and doing the full product around the electronics. Combine little bit of thermal, uh, electrical, mechanical design on top of the electronics, and there is and then software, right? I mean, we are very good at software. There's so much of signal processing, noise handling, etc., that you need to do on top of the electronics to make it valuable for a customer. And I think that's where we have a huge talent pool in Bangalore, which brings all of this together. And this is not available everywhere. So this is our strength. And I think that's what we should do. I mean, if there is subsidies which some founder wants to take advantage of, fine, but you can't rely on subsidies to make a startup. I think those are typically placed for large companies. I think subsidies will be captured by large companies. I think founders should really be excited about what's the natural strength of the ecosystem and build innovative products around that.
Follow up to that. So if you think about the business models, right? So made to spec, design to spec, or really fundamental innovation and build products. These are choices that entrepreneurs have, assuming they have the right access to capital and talent. Is there inherent tension between these business models, or is there a natural way to progress through these business models, like some of the other companies have done in the past? What's your perspective on
So,
that?
I mean, my sense is, I mean, the first two are services companies, and then your product companies, right? So, I would say typically a startup should be a product company, right? So, there are very few examples where services companies have evolved to become product companies, but it's very hard. I think it's very hard to do services and products simultaneously. I think new there's enough capital, in my opinion. I think the choice can be with the right amount of capital, with the capital access you have, you can choose the right product category, right? So I think there are always different kinds of product categories. There's so much to do that at every capital pool that is available to you, you can do innovation, which is still meaningful.
So a classic example is to, there's one way where you start thinking about what will happen 10 years from now. Another aspect is the larger part of the market is what's happening today. Uh, and China, Japan, all of these guys have shown in the past that they've taken technology from people outside their country, started as built to spec, and matured into a pure play product companies. All of them, BYD, Longcheer, Huachin, all of these Chinese companies which are doing multi-billion-dollar sales as design houses were at one point pure play make to print guys. Now that's a DNA of the company, of the founder, that are they able to pick up on what is getting built to start thinking about how to build it. And that progression can be fast tracked with, of course, government subsidies and a push which might be to reward people to do it, and that is only possible if you're able to bring a cost effective solution to the country. We are not going to buy an expensive solution because it's made in India. And we've so there's both parts possible. The larger sector, of course, is the one which is existing today. Learn from who have done it in the past, see how you can build it here in India and provide a Make in India solution, and then become a Make in India for the world. And the other part is think about what's going to come 10 years from now and start building it today itself in India, and because there is no one to copy from.
So, I mean, I like the fact what you mentioned about the product versus services. But if you look at, being a services company at any point in time is not a bad idea, because we all come out of being services, right? Look at the big services company. They all bought an engineering capability into India. At some point in time, they were supporting the multinationals. So the capabilities came into India for the last 30 years, because of which we can now sit back and say that these capabilities exist. Right? You took up good examples on thermal analysis and stuff like that. The whole idea is to look at what idea do you have, go ahead and initiate it. There are funds available, there are customers available, and you need a very good execution engine, which I'm sure the people figure it out. A lot of aerospace companies that we have seen, 10 years before, how much could we dream about setting up an aerospace company, right? We all looked up ISRO and stuff, but now people are venturing out. How many times do we think that we can put a semiconductor manufacturing plant in India? We are doing it, and likewise. So I guess one has to follow the idea and the vision, and then start executing it.
One last question to all of you. If a brilliant young engineering team came to you and said, what is the space I should be building in within electronics and electricals, what would your advice to them be?
If it's a very smart engineering team, I would rather bring them into the fold and give them sufficient funds. In a sense that we believe is that bringing them into the company would sometimes dilute. They have to go through the entire process and stuff like that. Keep them separate, give them proper funds, and ensure that they take their vision forward. So that's what I would think.
Uh, from my point of view, it would be sectors where the innovation is still happening, uh, and there's going to be a lot of innovation going to happen in the future as well, because they are trying to compete with incumbents. It will be a little difficult. Payments is one particular space. It's going to change. Anything connected device is going to change, because we are still yet to see the impact of AI chips on hardware. So the hardware firmware combination anywhere will change. All the devices that we use today will have a different format with the chips coming in probably a year or 2 year from now at the right cost. So anything which is connected devices is the space I would suggest them to foray in.
So, I mean, couple of themes I already mentioned. I think depending on the kind of team and the kind of money they have, right? Again, different level of capital. If you don't have enough capital, right, you can existing things, ruggedized stuff, right? I think there's a huge amount of there's very little industrial grade electronics available in India, right? I mean, all of that has to be imported, even when we do the regular stuff, right? So I think just doing industrial grade, harsh environment electronics is a big opportunity. It doesn't require that much capital to do something like that, but does require a lot of. The other part is to do sensor fusion. I mean, bring together multiple kinds of things together on a single SoC or a single thing. You combine images, radar, or say other inputs, etc. So combining, I think, software with electronics is a very low hanging fruit for people in Bangalore. It's something we are better at China in doing, right? I think we should really look at something, not always trying to do catch up. We should do things which are better at other people in doing.
Closing thoughts from each of you before we wrap up.
I think we are at a inflection point where we believe that a lot of electronics manufacturing and semiconductor manufacturing is going to come, and it really is a point where we become self-sufficient as far as and not be too much dependent on. We have seen the kind of money that will go into aerospace and defense, and particularly in defense itself is going to pick up a lot. Not that we have to go on fighting and stuff like that, but there are a lot of advancements that are happening there. So I guess this is the right time that we start investing in these technologies.
See, the opportunity is huge. So anyone who feels that they want to start something in this space, they would create something good. In a growing market at such scale, with innovation happening on hardware as well as with the growth in the market, you will crack something. From having funds to not having funds, you will create something.
Yeah, I think the timing, especially, I think the geopolitics for the first time is playing in favor of startups. I mean, usually startups would be the last people to think of geopolitics, right? I think just the timing is such that, I mean, just a few days ago, an RFP came my way. Somebody trying to say, can you do a lidar in India? Right. I mean, the full lidar manufacturing is all captured by China today, and like people are at least asking, right? Can you do a lidar in India? And that was very good to see, right? So I think people want to do these things for various reasons, but I think because of that, things will get done here. I think great time to start up, and then people like you are willing to put money. So fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for all the insights.